some of the objectives that we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about different definitions of prevalence. We're going to talk about, can everybody, if I stand right here, can everybody see? Is that okay? Okay. I added a section in here talking about the relationships with families because you work so closely with these families. I wanted to give you a lot of information about how to work with foster families, that you have a child that has NAS, and also the biological family, because sometimes that happens where you have a child that has NAS and that child goes back to the biological family. So I want to talk about that. The symptoms during infancy, how to care for these substance-exposed infants, some overstimulation, which is a huge part that we're going to talk about, and that's why you brought your babies today, because we're going to practice what to do when that child is overstimulated. And then we're going to talk a lot after lunch about long-term effects. What does this mean after that child leaves the NICU? What does this mean after that child turns 1? A lot of you will get children that were diagnosed with NAS from the very beginning. After they leave the NICU and they go straight to foster family, you're getting that brand new newborn child. I can give you a lot of techniques about that, but what happens when you get a child that's 2 years old that has NAS? What do you do then? So I'm going to talk a lot about that too. And then a lot of intervention strategies, because that's what we do. And then at the end, we'll talk about some questions. So some definitions. One thing that I like to talk about is substance exposure. What are substances? There's different categories of substances. There's prescription versus non-prescription. And I try to put some examples up there so you can kind of understand. Prescription medicines would be anything like methadone, Subutex, Suboxone, morphine. All those things are prescribed to a person. And then non-prescription, cough medicine, antihistamines, all of those can affect the child too. Social drugs, which would be considered caffeine, tobacco and cigarettes, illegal drugs that you find on the street, heroin, cocaine, meth, marijuana, ecstasy, and then dietary supplements. A lot of people don't realize this, but there are many dietary supplements that are actually also going to affect the child, such as phentermine. So weight loss medicine is stimulants, and so if that mother is taking weight loss medicine, a lot of times if they go to a weight loss clinic, they will tell them, hey, you need to use 2 different forms of birth control because if you get pregnant while you're using this weight loss medicine, it can actually cause birth defects in the fetus. So that's something a lot of people don't know. In 2015, studies were done to show you that the different types of substances that cause that child to be substance exposed or born with NAS. Can anybody see what the majority is? Prescription. That was shocking to me. When I was starting to do all this research and look through everything, the majority of the children that are born with NAS or substance exposure were prescribed to the mother. That's pretty shocking because they had a person say, I know that you may get pregnant doing this, but here's some medicine. Or they didn't tell them the effects. Or someone who is addicted to heroin and goes to a methadone clinic or a pain clinic and gets prescribed methadone. Methadone is actually makes a woman more fertile. So a lot of those women that are going to methadone clinics or pain clinics and getting prescribed this medicine, that's the majority, that's half of all the children in the state of Tennessee that were born with substance exposure. So what is NAS? NAS stands for neonatal abstinence syndrome. So you're going to hear me say a lot, NAS, NAS. And then I'm also going to use the word SEI a lot. It's going to be in the presentation a lot. So I use a lot of acronyms because that's a long thing to spell. SEI stands for substance exposed infant. What does this mean? When a pregnant woman takes prescription medications or other drugs, their baby may be born drug dependent, and this condition is called neonatal abstinence syndrome. Something that's really important to know is that if a child is born substance exposed, it does not always mean that they qualify and are diagnosed with NAS. That's something really important for you to understand. You can have a child that is substance exposed, SEI, or you can have a child that has NAS. Substance exposed infants are not always diagnosed with NAS. When they go and they're born in the NICU, or they go to the NICU and they start doing those tests, that's where it tells you if that child is going to go through withdrawal or likely to go through withdrawal. So that's where the diagnosis of NAS comes. So when you have a child that if for some reason in your eligibility it says that the child was substance exposed, or if it's a foster family and it says there's a possibility of substance exposure, remember that, because you're going to see children that have the same sort of symptoms whether they have NAS or not. And a lot of those times you're going to be playing mystery, like, why are all these things? This child is delayed in every single area, and you kind of work with that child really closely. You may start thinking, there are a lot of red flags here, and some of these are lining up to be substance exposure symptoms. That could be it too. And a lot of times families will not disclose that they have used substances. Why would they? Because especially when we had that law in Tennessee that prosecuted women. So they're not going to disclose to you that they have used substances during pregnancy. It doesn't matter whether the prescription medicine was given to the mom or she got it off the streets. The effects to the child is the same.